Welcome to the Modern Psychedelics podcast. Thank you so much for being here and choosing to spend some time with me today. I'm your host, Lana. This is the place where we explore how modern humans can work with psychedelics and plant medicine to engage more deeply with life. You can expect balanced and grounded conversations around therapeutic, spiritual, and recreational containers. All right, let's journey. Hello, everyone. Oh my goodness. It feels so amazing to be speaking to you again. As you may have noticed, we took an entire month off of the podcast for the month of June. And I don't know if I'm ever going to do that again because like a part of me felt like it was missing. I had a really, honestly, crappy June, and I've started like working on the podcast again at the end of June, and I felt like lit up and excited again. And I realized how much like purpose I get from doing this podcast. So yeah, I don't know if we'll be taking any more breaks in the future, but it feels so good to be back. If you're new here, welcome to Modern Psychedelics. I'm so glad you're here. There's so many like big, huge podcasters now speaking about psychedelics, and there's just a lot more content on psychedelics out there than there was when I first started a few years ago when I was like one of the only podcasts about psychedelics. So yeah, I'm so grateful that you chose to tune in here. My approach is definitely different. Science is not my language. I appreciate it and I have respect for it, but it's just not the language that I speak. I speak the language of the heart. I speak the language of intuition. So that's kind of my approach. I'm also a professional life coach. So I'm really at the intersection of coaching, forward momentum energy, and psychedelics. And my platform is all about how we can work with psychedelics to create a more meaningful life, to create more purpose. And that's what I'm all about. I talk about ceremonial and recreational containers with psychedelics, which not everyone does. A lot of people focus on the clinical therapeutic side, and I cover that, but also recreational containers. I believe they're just as beautiful, powerful, and meaningful as other ones. And I've been working with different medicines for 12 years. So yeah, psychedelics are my life. Coaching is my life, and this is the place where I merge the two. If you're a longtime listener, thank you for continuing to tune into the show. You're so appreciated, and it means so much to me, and I truly love you. I really do. So if you want to support the show, you can leave a rating and review. You can share on social media. You can share this episode or any other episodes with a friend. And as you may have noticed, we're starting to onboard some aligned partners and sponsors. Purchase some of the items from the sponsors if you feel like they are aligned with your life. And that really goes a long way. The podcasting world is no joke, and I do want to take it more seriously. So yeah, we are growing, and we are in this for the long haul. So wow, I'm so happy to be back. Yeah, let me know. Did you guys miss the show? Did you even notice that it was gone? Let me know. You know, I always like to chat with you guys on social media. But today's episode is with Levi Barker. He's back. So Levi is the Iboga provider that I worked with when I took my Iboga journeys in November 2022. He's been on the podcast before. You would have heard him in episode 40. That was a great interview. And this one is even better because it was recorded live in person while I was in Costa Rica. More specifically, Levi and I actually sat down in the room where I experienced Iboga for the first time, the bedroom that I stayed in, and had just the most powerful experiences of my life. And so it was a really, really beautiful interview. And like Levi and I have become friends, and you know, it's been a really beautiful interview it was a really beautiful opportunity to drop in with him and to share this conversation with you guys. So in this episode, if you listen to this podcast a lot, you know a lot more about Iboga than the average person. And in this episode, we're going even deeper into exploring this beautiful medicine. I really wanted this conversation to like let you all in even more, like kind of peek behind the curtain of this medicine, like kind of go beyond the basics of both Iboga and the Bwiti tradition. So if you are considering working with Iboga or you simply want to learn more, this episode is full of information that honestly isn't available elsewhere. And that's because the Bwiti tradition, it's the study of life, and it's the tradition that underlies Iboga medicine. It's not a religion or anything like that, but usually people learn about Bwiti if they are lucky enough to go to a Iboga retreat, either in Gabon, Africa, or a place like Levi's in Costa Rica that is traditional. But a lot of the stuff we talk about in this episode is stuff you would only learn about, you know, at the fire talks during ceremony. So there's a lot of really great stuff in here about Bwiti and how they look at the mind and how they view the mind and how they kind of master the mind and how they view simplicity and truth and how we verify truth. And one thing that is actually really cool in this episode is Levi offers some reflections for you guys about my transformations that he's seen in me over the last 6 months since he saw me for the first time to do Iboga. So yeah, I love this episode. I loved doing the episode live. And yeah, he also plays the Monugongo for us. You would have heard that in the start of this episode in the intro music. So the Monugongo, we talk a little bit about it. It's the Bwiti harp. It's an ancient instrument. And yeah, he's going to play some live Monugongo for us at the end. So enjoy this episode. Definitely let me know what you think. Share it with a friend and go back and listen to episode 40, the first interview with Levi, and then episode 45 and 49 are like a deep dive into my Iboga journeys. And then I also have a blog post for something called the Modern Psychedelics Medicine Network. It's a full review of Iboga Wellness Center, so you can also check that out. And wishing you, yeah, lots of love. And again, it's just so good to be back. Footwear has always been a huge issue for me. The problem is I want to look cute, but I'm also so over those fashion shoes that make my feet hurt and my bunions worse. Earth Runners have solved all of my soul's problems. Their earthing sandals are not only comfortable, not only mimic barefoot living, but also look pretty damn cute with all my outfits. I recently got a pair for my 6 weeks in Costa Rica, and I am not kidding you guys. I did not take these shoes off. They were the only footwear that I brought with me other than my hiking boots, but honestly, I could have left those hiking boots at home. My feet feel like they're finally starting to heal after all of the damage I've put them through over the years. I can walk for long distances, and my feet just don't hurt like they used to. I am obsessed. I have found my shoe for life. Made with Vibram outsoles for a responsive, sure-footed experience, these smart sandals are appropriate for hiking, long-distance running, not that I do any of that, water adventures, festivaling, I definitely do that, and integrating with the earth. So the stainless steel copper earthing system grounds you to the Earth's electromagnetic frequencies, which has a number of health benefits. You guys can research this: reducing inflammation, connecting to the circadian rhythm, better sleep, pain reduction, and some other stuff. The ultimate integration for me is living in alignment with the earth. And I love any products that help me do that. Free your feet and rewild your soul with Earth Runners. Just go and get a pair for the summer season and you will thank me later. I'm currently sporting the Circadian Adventure model and I'm about to go grab another pair because I'm that obsessed. Visit earthrunners.com and use Lana, Lana, at checkout for 10% off. That's earthrunners.com and Lana at checkout for 10% off. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live episode of the Modern Psychedelics podcast. I'm here in beautiful Costa Rica on the beautiful Iboga Wellness land, here with Levi. We're actually sitting in the room where I did my Iboga journey. And yeah, we're bringing Levi back today to go a little deeper about the Iboga medicine. Welcome.
Good. Thanks for having me. Wonderful to have you back here.
Yeah, it's been so fun. And just to give the listeners some context, so I journeyed here 6 months ago and I shared about that in episode 45 and 49. And I'm here right now helping out with some of the retreats. And it's been such a beautiful experience. And yeah, we're sitting down today to, like I said, just go a little deeper with the medicine. People might have heard you on episode 40 where we first interviewed you, but can you reintroduce yourself to the audience and just let us know a little bit about your story and how you were called to Iboga?
Yes. So I had a long-term opiate habit, my early 20s to 30s, and couldn't ever shake it. And eventually a good friend told me about Iboga, and he ended up sending me some, and I did a home detox and got myself clean. Didn't know about the Bwiti or the psychospiritual aspect of it at all. So I was really just thrown into it and got cleaned out. And then a year and a half later, I met Monugongo, who was the first Bwiti shaman to come to the West and share the medicine with Westerners in a formal setting. He was definitely the first one that actually set up a retreat to do it. And so I met him through a friend, thankfully. It was all meant to happen. I wouldn't have met him if I wasn't an addict, because I probably wouldn't have moved down eventually to Nicaragua. And he started Iboga House right over the border of southern Nicaragua, northern Costa Rica. And so I met him through the same friend. And he had told me about the Bwiti a little bit before, but then I met Monugongo and we were helping him make his first batch of total alkaloid extract. And so me and my friend went there, and Monugongo came out with this trash bag full of Iboga. Like, you just cut like an acre of something, just a huge amount. And it was my job to grind it. And so I'll never forget that day, just grinding medicine all day. I was so caked in my nose. Eventually he started painting us. And then eventually, if you get around Monugongo, he's going to start giving you wisdom. If you take an interest in the medicine. And he started talking about a lot of deep yet simple stuff, which is the Bwiti, very deep but very simple at the same time. And so eventually came down, and me and my wife had our first psychospiritual ceremony with him. And then from that point, I was pretty well hooked. Or even after that first detox, I was like, this medicine's amazing. It did something which a lot of people consider impossible. And it's not a cure, but you got to be ready for it. And if you are ready, you can do it. And so then started training with Monugongo over many years. He would really spoon feed things to us slowly. So you don't have to be there a lot and spend a lot of time for him to reveal things as they come. So then one of his first students, my partner and mentor as well, Gary Cook in the States, he started Iboga Wellness 8.5 years ago now. Yeah, and I can't believe it's been 6 months since your journey. Going quick. Yeah. And just seeing you here is a different, better person for sure.
Aww.
Yeah. And Gary was Monugongo's first student to graduate, and he started Iboga Wellness. Eventually, Monugongo went back to Gabon, and so Iboga Wellness was the only spot to go for Bwiti-based psychospiritual Iboga work. And Gary kept it going through thick and thin. As you can imagine, Iboga is just bubbling up into the plant medicine consciousness now and moving past this addiction tool into a very powerful psychospiritual, just life advancement tool. And so he kept it going. And then eventually Iboga Wellness got to a spot where it could support itself. And as word spreads, definitely the most powerful testimonial is when people come, get their healing, and go back, and their family and their friends see them, and that inspires other people to come. So it took a little bit for it to spread out there. And then, been here at Iboga Wellness 8 years now. Had many people come through for many different conditions and quirks and things that they have to deal with. And it's just most beautiful work. Definitely super blessed, and meet the coolest people. I want to hang around people that are into Iboga, because that's one of the biggest things in my life for sure. But these are all people called to Iboga. So it's really good.
I am curious, something that I don't know about your story is, before you discovered Iboga, you were working with ayahuasca a little bit, right? Or other plant medicines, or was that after?
I actually had Iboga first, did my detox, had my first ceremony with Monugongo, and then shortly after that went to my first time to Peru and had worked with ayahuasca and San Pedro, and continued to back in Nicaragua. So I definitely gotten a lot from the other medicines too, but definitely Iboga is my medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Iboga's a league of its own. It really is.
Yeah, it's just different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great point because a lot of people in my community have asked me, should I sit with ayahuasca before Iboga? Should I have more experience? Like, I think people often think that it's the medicine that you do after you have a lot of experience with other medicines, but that just isn't the case. Like, we just had like 3 or 4 people out of 7 in the last retreat, and they had no experience with other medicines or psychedelics and went right to Iboga. So is that something that you see common, like people going straight to it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Iboga just grabs people's attention once they're really called to it and kind of won't let go. And so as people start looking around, they just know the call is there. And sometimes it can take years for them to come.
Yeah.
We've definitely had people that I've been in touch with 6 years and then finally came. And they're like, why didn't I do that before?
Yeah.
I'm like, I told you, I'm like, try and get it done, make it happen.
Yeah.
And, but no, it's beautiful having new people come in, and even the people just really experienced with plant medicine too love it as well.
Yeah. I think I heard you say that Iboga can make other medicines like ayahuasca more productive. And I just had my first ayahuasca experience with Iboga, and I would definitely say that's true because it was a completely different experience with Aya. I want to talk about what I think are the biggest gifts and blessings that this medicine can give people, and that is truth and simplicity. I think I talked so much about how Iboga showed me the truth, and I could see the truth of myself and who I really was in the world, and how it just simplified so much for me.
Getting to the problem of how we've gotten away from truth and simplicity is what's happened. Is us humans, going back millions of years, haven't changed too much, but definitely the technology around us has, and the environments that we live in. And it's been a long time that we've been trying to kind of separate ourselves from nature as much as possible. And as we do that, people start getting disconnected with the truth because they're not in nature as much. They're not connected with it. And so medicine is definitely something that brings you back to truth of things. And as in our Bwiti, we call Iboga the greatest hunter for the truth.
And it's definitely a very good analogy to approach life as well. Just, we talk about here, like hunting down the things you want in life, not necessarily like you got to kill an animal. What do you want in life? And hunting it down. And you don't quite know what that is if you're not connected with the truth. And so the medicine really goes in and gets a lot of the beliefs, like you're saying, out of your system. We talk about, your beliefs are something that come from the mind, like they're not actually things we can fully verify. And it just makes a very clear distinction between what's real, true, and known, and what we believe, the things that we make in our own mind. And Iboga really simplifies it when we have so much going through our mind, and because that's how we're brought up. We're brought up to be complicated. Like the more complicated you are, probably the more that you're congratulated as a kid. Whereas the kids that grow up, say like a Costa Rica kid, maybe they're not great in some sort of school, but they're connected with nature and they're happy and they know themselves and they're able to sit with themselves and depend on themselves for their happiness. And so simplicity is a big part of my path as well. I tried to make everything very complicated and tried to explain it all. And so Iboga's really showed me like, hey, there's some things you don't need to know. Everything isn't for you to know. Yeah. And within simplicity, there's just so much more freedom. That's why this path is so powerful, because when people are here, we definitely share kind of the Bwiti lessons on how to live. And most of them deal with just about anything we can come up with. And so if you just apply that thing, practice it, get some repetition in, then you know it and make it a part of you, then it just simplifies life so much. And that's what Magenda would always say, just laughing at people, like, life is so simple. Like, you just gotta reconnect with it. And it's an important part of living. And you can still live simply while looking for answers or developing things or technological progress, there's a way to do that with staying connected with the truth and keeping it within how nature operates.
Yeah. One of the things that I got out of my journey was like it closed a lot of doors for me. Like you said, there are some things that we don't need to know. And I think people on spiritual path get very lost and confused, and it adds a lot of stress to life to seek for answers that as human beings we simply can't know the answers to. We can't know like what happens after death. It's just something that we can't know until it happens. And I think that's a way that we add a lot of that complication and confusion into the spiritual path specifically. And for me, the Iboga really was like, yeah, you can just close that door. It's okay if you don't know. And like it brought a lot of peace to me to not know.
Yeah.
It's okay. So you talk a lot about at the fire circles, which are my favorite parts of the whole retreats. I think that I love the fire talks and just hearing the Bwiti wisdom. You talk a lot about the ways that we can actually use our mind and not have our mind use us. How do they look at the mind as a tool and thoughts as a tool in the Bwiti?
Pretty much by approaching it as a tool. And
simple.
Yeah, the difference between using it as a tool and thinking that everything that happens in your mind is who you are. And so one of the first things we tell people is just because you think something doesn't make it real or true. And a lot of people haven't looked at it like that in a while. They start identifying with every thought in their mind. And then that's when it sets in and the OCD looping thinking comes in. The Iboga gives them the separation up from the mind from the rest of them. We want all three things working in unison, mind, body, soul, without letting the mind just lead everything. And it does need to lead a lot of things because that's our tool for that, but not everything. Like a big distinction that Iboga and the Bwiti teaches, like the difference between your intuition and your mind, and being able to see where things are coming from and being able to know which is which. As we talk about here, our intuition is the way that our soul speaks to us and guides us through life, and we got to be able to get the messages from that soul to get it to get the answers that we need to do what we need to do in life. And yeah, really post Iboga just makes you more aware of your thoughts. And typically the mind is going to be calmer for a period afterwards, but then you're more aware of the thoughts that are coming in. And so we really tell people, and everybody has to go through this and the healing process, unless they were raised in a really good way with the truth. So a lot of people, now that they're aware of their thoughts, then they're just aware of like their negative thinking. Yeah. And so people need to know that's natural. That's part of it because that's how it's been done for so long. Yeah. And we really talk about here, like thinking about the things that you want in life. That is how we call the things in energetically to get them moving, to make them happen. And really focusing on, a lot of people think about the things that they don't want rather than the things that they do want. So just really making that shift just changes the energy of everything around you. And even in science, we know that the emotions or sounds, things, everything around on a quantum level shifts.
Yeah, that happens all the time with my coaching clients. I'm like, so what do you want? And they're like, I want to not feel stressed.
Oh, yeah.
No, what do you want? What's on the other side of not feeling stress and anxiety? And like when we actually know who we are through seeing ourselves through the voice of truth, through the light of truth, it's a lot easier to know what we want. What has the medicine taught you about how to actually know what is truth? Like, how do we confirm, we talk about confirming truth and knowing what is true and what is not true. How do we go about that?
We talk about in the Bwiti, the only way to confirm the truth is through our own senses. And that's the big distinction between beliefs versus knowing something, is because beliefs, we can't actually confirm them with our senses. A belief may give us a thought-feeling combination, but that's not enough to make something true. And so just understanding that the truth, we want to be able to verify with our senses and actually know things. So one of the things that we can all think back on a time is when we assumed something in life and it it hit us at some way, and we then go back, I shouldn't have assumed that. And assuming is just not having enough information, not having enough validation from your senses. And yeah, that's another part of just simplifying life, being able to verify things with your senses. And if you can't do it, then you need to be cautious with it and make sure that it's something that's going to be beneficial for you. Like the belief, I can do anything I want to do in life. That's fine. But if it's the belief like, oh, my dad and mom were this way, so I'm going to be this way. Or that was one I had to go through with my own addiction is, oh, my family's like this, that I'm going to be like that. But looking back, it's definitely just a belief.
I'm quickly interrupting this episode that I hope you are enjoying to let you know that I'm currently onboarding new one-on-one clients in my coaching practice. I'm a 3-time certified and well-trained core energy coach working with those who are on the psychedelic path or psychedelic curious. If you're looking for a coach that's process-oriented, that would be me. In this outcome-obsessed world, it can be very alluring to live life from that place of wanting to be at the destination or the end result. But I have learned time and time again that the juice is in the journey. Thank you, psychedelics, for teaching me that. That's why I aim to equip my clients with tools and skills for the long game of life, for the long game of medicine work. The key pillars of my coaching practice include awareness, acceptance, peace, conscious choice, trusting the process, energetic engagement, and enjoyment. And I don't just coach from these disciplines, I live and breathe them myself. If this sounds supportive for where you're at, get in touch with me by clicking the link in the show notes or head to modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. I can't wait to connect with you. That's modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. All right, back to the episode.
Beliefs get into us at an early age when we start making sense of the world and start trying to make the story to define the outcomes and the life that's happening for us.
We talk about having those like productive thoughts. I like to say like productive or supportive or empowering rather than positive. When we think about the supportive beliefs and thoughts versus the not supportive beliefs and thoughts, like they may not be true at the time, but they have an impact on the actions we're willing to take in the world and what we're willing to do. That's why it's so important to pay attention to beliefs. What are your thoughts around like how beliefs may turn into reality for us eventually?
Like positive beliefs about ourselves.
Positive or negative, right? Whichever ones
we
have create the actions we're willing to take in the world, and then those actions create the results, right?
Yeah, like you said, with positive beliefs are perfectly fine and something we should do. But recognizing negative beliefs is like the first part of it, or the beliefs that we have about ourselves are the first part of it. And knowing, especially after something like Iboga, like you really have a clean slate to be who you want to be from there. And it'll help you move past those beliefs, especially self-limiting beliefs, or I'm flawed, or I'm not good enough, I'm not this enough. Those are the first ones to get through. Yeah, like they're not, like beliefs and thoughts aren't real, but they create real outcomes, I think is what I'm trying to get at here, right? Yeah. And like my experience was like I remember you talked so much about truth is simple, clear, and direct, and you don't have to question it. And before I had my experience with Iboga, that was confusing to me. And then I experienced that voice of truth and how simple, clear, and direct it was, and that I didn't have to question it. But is that the typical Iboga experience? Do most people have that connection with that voice of truth and that resonance of truth? Is that common? Yeah. Once things settle, definitely they're able to connect with what's real or realize what's happening. They're doing it to themselves. Or a lot of people come in with fears around things and they're able to see that they're creating the fears themselves. But the medicine gets down to the truth. Like a lot can be swirling around in the mind during the experience itself. But then, once everything settles in, like it's just, you can just connect with the truth. You can connect with thoughts that, you're creating in your mind that have nothing to do with reality. Yeah, so powerful. So powerful. And I'm happy to hear that because I've talked so much about it in my episodes about my experience that I was like, I hope this isn't something I'm just talking about and that
isn't common to
Oh, yeah,
experience.
no,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay,
For
good.
sure.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. You refer to it as truth serum. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the one law in Bwiti?
Yep, the law of nature. And yeah, in the Bwiti, we talk about from the time we're born, everything that we'll ever need is here for us to use as we need. Nature provides our clothing, our shelter, even plastic comes from nature. So anything that's made here on Earth has to come from Earth. Even if you're synthesizing it and tweaking it somehow, you're still using the raw materials of Earth. So everything is here for us. And so that's where people a lot of people consider Elon Musk a smart guy. And I think he really is in some ways. But rather than putting his energy into conserving what we have here, he's trying to get to Mars. And the medicine told me there's nothing we need on Mars to live. It's already here for us. And part of that law of nature is knowing that we come from nature. And like I spoke about at the beginning, like the separation of humans from nature is one of the main catalysts for the problems that we're facing today. We get more and more separated, and especially kids these days, like they don't go out and play a lot. And so they're even getting it younger now. And so the medicine brings us back to nature and shows us that we're part of this all, like we're part of this whole organism of life. And so in the Bwiti, we talk about the law of nature is you can't abuse nature, because if you abuse nature, you'll lose your happiness. And happiness is the goal of life. That's what we should strive for. Like our job here on this planet is to enjoy it and live. And let's talk about the biggest thing that can ever happen to anybody is to be given life. Like that, what's bigger than that? We don't know. We can't register that. Maybe there is something on the other side, but like you said, we can't confirm it now because we're not there. And so the price to pay if we do abuse nature is our own happiness. And there is people out there abusing nature, and the ones that are working on really big mining projects or in the Congo mining diamonds with kids or whatever it may be, like they're breaking that law, knowing that those people, even though they may be really rich or something, they're not going to be happy because they're breaking that law. And then the other way we break that law is our own self-abuse, and saying that we come from nature ourselves. If we abuse nature, we'll lose our happiness. That goes on us as well. So whatever way we abuse ourselves within our own mind, our thoughts, there's all kinds of ways that we can abuse ourselves. And when we do that, we're also not going to be happy. And so we talk about that kind of being like the first step on the healing path is not abusing yourself anymore. Like we need to figure out, like, if we're abusing ourselves, like that's the part that has to stop, because if you don't stop that part, you're just not going to have a foundation. You can't abuse yourself and do all these other great things and heal your mind and your body. Like you have to start with any sort of self-abuse. And usually that comes down to people's minds. Like the large majority of people that come here are coming for some sort of depression or PTSD or anxiety or beliefs. And until they stop however they abuse themselves with those thoughts, like they just need to concentrate on that first.
Why do you think people abuse themselves in the first place?
Some of it is taught. Unfortunately, a lot of our parents did the best they could with what they had at the time, and they just didn't have the skills to teach us like how to manage our mind. And so in many ways, coming here in Iboga in the Bwiti is like going to school for learning how to live again. And that's really what it is. They even talk about themselves like this is the school of life, living within nature and being here and experiencing this opportunity. But a lot of it's learned. If kids are abused, they start thinking it's their fault, trying to get away from their own mind. So a lot of people that use substances is because they can't handle their own mind and just like sitting there with themselves. And so usually, at least with substances, like the abuse gives them some temporary relief, and then it comes raging back and amplifies it, and it keeps coming. But yeah, and we're also taught, like in the West, the harder you can be on yourself and grind it and just get whatever done, like that's what's going to make you happy. Just get through it, whether it's work or a job or whatever it may be. And that's just not the truth. Like we want to do big things in life, but we don't have to abuse ourselves as we do it. Yeah.
What have you found in life makes you happy? What actually makes you happy?
I always think back to my daughter, of course, like having a kid is certainly...
She's the best. I
Yeah,
love her
thanks.
so much.
Yeah. Definitely think of her, definitely my family, although it didn't always used to be that way. Let's see. Yeah, family, Iboga is a big part of it. Yeah, being able to continually grow and understand the medicine more and like the laws and codes within nature. The medicine just teaches that to you over time, like the little simple things that you may not have realized, like whenever you're setting up or doing ceremony, like sometimes the medicine will just tell you, do it this way. You shouldn't have that there or this there. But yeah, I'm super blessed to be able to provide the medicine and just see people transform their lives and go forward and live. Like that's very fulfilling. But all of it had to start with me first. And that was the long path. Like I didn't say it at the beginning, but I had 7 years of working with the medicine, or 6, 7 years of working with the medicine pretty consistently, like before I graduated. And so it came from a very deep place. Like I'm definitely another person now. I was like a child 15 years ago.
Yeah, which I always love hearing that part of your story because there's a lot of Iboga providers now. So for people listening, Levi's not like a shaman, like an Iboga shaman. He's a Iboga provider is the correct term, where you get the blessing from your teacher to provide this medicine. I don't know if there's anything you want to add there, but there's a lot of people today serving this very powerful, very complex, very serious medicine after not that much training. It is hard to find someone who has been trained for as long as you have.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it went that way
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that you didn't serve for 6 or 7 years until...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, one time Gary fell asleep during a ceremony and a friend that had been there a couple times was there. And I snuck one in. He was like, "Hey, Levi, give me some more medicine." I'm like, am I going to go wake up Gary? Ended up giving him a big spoon, and he was gone all through the next day. But that was the only
one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. To get back to the law of nature. So the law of nature says when we abuse nature, we abuse ourselves. Does it work the other way around too? When we abuse ourselves, we're abusing nature?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah. Yep. Same thing.
Same
thing. Yeah.
It's like the feeling I get, the sense that I get, the knowing that I get over and over again after Iboga is like nature is our true nature, and like living with nature is our true nature. And the more kind of in tune I can get with that, the happier I will be, because the more in alignment with my truth I will be with what it means to be human.
Yeah. Beautiful. No, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay.
Your true nature.
Yeah. I remember just like being out here and oh my God, I felt the land so much. Can you actually tell listeners a bit about this land, this property that you're in? It's just, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you want to come watch on YouTube, you can see the hills behind Levi. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about this land and the role that it plays in the retreats when people come here?
Yeah, no, it is pretty special. And it was definitely the medicine like pushed us here. And so during the pandemic, we had to shut down our other retreat center that was in Guanacaste, and we'd been wanting to come south for quite a while. And so this was like the only house that I could find with enough bedrooms. Yeah, that wasn't like very expensive. And we came here, and a retired guy from Washington State was selling it. So he was here with him and his Costa Rican wife with 9 bedrooms, just the two of them living here. And so he came down here about 16 years ago and built this house. And so it's like 5 acres or so not super huge. We're in the middle of a little pueblo on top of a mountain, so you can see all the mountains around you. So we're on a ridge in between another valley and circle of mountains. So it's really beautiful across the way. I can go out and see long distances. Yeah, the medicine really likes it here. This is definitely a spot where Iboga could thrive in the right conditions down here. And I think that's a big part of it. You could serve Iboga and be pretty successful anywhere, I think, the right setting, but I think it amps it up for sure being here.
I remember when I was in the medicine, I was thinking I can't imagine having this experience anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's just so It's the perfect place to experience this medicine.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you like it. Yeah. No, we were really blessed to find it. And we saw it, and it was the only place that we looked at. And then 2 weeks later, we were here.
Can you tell people about how you knew it was the right place?
Yeah, so there's definitely some different signs, but as we were walking around the property the first or second day, there's these little black and red birds that live in the area, and that's two of the main colors in the Bwiti and Masoko-based Bwiti traditions. And so, yeah, I saw those guys flying around, and yeah, so I was like, this is the spot.
They have the white beak too, though, don't they?
Do they have a white beak?
I thought so.
They might.
Yeah,
they might. And then also another thing that showed me it was the right one. If you look, the shape of the house is like a chacana, like the Incan cross,
right,
or the Andean cross. And so, yeah, it's that exact shape, which is really unique for a house. Like, it's a unique house.
It is a unique house. And like the space just works so perfectly for what you're doing here. And yeah, this is one of my favorite places to be, for sure. I feel so peaceful when I'm here.
Yeah.
Been here for about 2 weeks now, and I feel like a different person.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
So peaceful. There's no traffic noise, which I love. No airplanes.
Not too much.
Just birds all day.
Yeah. One thing that's nice about here is like essentially the two open areas on each floor, like all the rooms are separated around it.
Yeah.
So it's like each person has their own little space that's
their own quarters.
They're not like besides those two rooms aren't really connected. None of them.
I was so worried about coming here and being around a lot of people because I'm so sensitive to noise, and it was incredible. Okay, do you want to talk a little bit about, because listeners have heard about my experience from me, do you want to talk a little bit about what that was like from your perspective, and maybe do some talk a little bit about the integration and things like that, so people who are listening and wanting to come, maybe they can get a better sense of kind of the long-term game of doing this medicine?
Yeah. What I saw in you, it was like cleansing your nervous system first. Like you talked about your story growing up and, what you had to go through there. And so, that when that happens at a young age, it just continues on and becomes the norm. So I knew that medicine was going to work out your nervous system first. And for those people that, and a lot of people need to clean out their nervous system coming here. And for those of you that, maybe haven't had Iboga, it actually intensifies all of your senses as you're going through the experience. So everything's just amplified to the max, your sight, your hearing especially. And so I knew you would go through that. But then even the next day, you went very deep on that first one.
I remember walking out of the room that we're in right now, and I was in the middle of it, and I think you had just shown up to the house after your sleep, and I was like, I hear Levi. I need to go hug him and say thank you to him. Yeah. And I think I was like in tears, and I came out and I was like, thank you so much. Like, I have access to the voice of truth, and it's just telling me everything.
Yeah.
I went really deep that discovery day.
Yeah. And what was it that you wrote down? You wrote down something about nature, right?
Yeah, the first thing I wrote down sitting on this bed after I purged and everything started to clear up, it was like, get your journal out and write this down. It was like, nature is the answer.
That's right. Nature is the answer.
Nature is the answer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can go pretty deep, that one there.
That's like a lifetime of integration. That's like a lifetime of integrating.
Yep.
And looking for answers in nature. Like, I was just out there on the hammock the other day, and I'm really calling in like romantic love right now.
Okay.
And I was watching the birds, and I was like watching one of them like singing the bird song to call their beloved other bird over, and I was like, wow, like you have to put out your song, you along with Iboga, like being on the hunt for what you want in life, but you have to put yourself out there and put that out there so that someone can find you, and if you love someone, tell them you love them. And it's endless. The lessons are endless.
Yeah. And one of the benefits too of Iboga is as you start forming a relationship, like you're going to get a very early sense on if this can work or not. And so rather than having to spend a lot of time and getting in there, like the medicine definitely will give you the intuition on if somebody's right for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You mean in terms of romantic partnership?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. You made a really nice comment at the beginning of our interview about you see some changes in me. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's bigger than words, but yeah, definitely a lot calmer. Like I see a lot of the like just kind of stress kind of washed off your face. Yeah, it is much brighter. And I can just tell you're really living it. You know what I mean? You've taken the lessons and the truth in and been practicing these last 6 months. And so I didn't see you in between that time, even though we were in contact a bit. And yeah, now you can tell you've just really done it and like made the most of the opportunity. And that's what we want everybody to do. Some people are just more motivated than others. And yeah, you really did it. Yeah, now I see you like, yeah, ready to go to the moon.
I've already been there.
Yeah, that's right.
Several times. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And my mom, it's always, I feel different. I feel that Iboga was like the line in the sand for me completely. And it can be for so many people. And my mom has also noticed a lot of changes in me. And it is very nice to get that confirmation from others too, even though I feel it within myself. I think one of my favorite things about this medicine, and particularly the way you do it, is you said you really took the lessons with you and did the homework and integrated. I think like the Bwiti teachings give us so much to work with and like really a way to live. And I love that at Iboga Wellness Center, you're like the medicine and Bwiti is front and center. Like you go to so many retreats in the plant medicine space and there's like workshops and yoga and breath work and all this stuff. And that can be great. I love that too. But I also really loved the really clear container that you've created here.
Yeah.
Even your approach in ceremony, I really got the sense that you know when to step in, and it's not very often that you do. Like it seems like you really allow the medicine to do the heavy lifting, and then you're there if needed. Can you talk a little bit about your approach to ceremony and sharing this medicine with people and holding the retreats? What do you see your role as being, and what do you see the role of the medicine?
So I definitely view myself as like a assistant or like a team member of Iboga. Yeah, my job is to first, when people are thinking about coming, just making sure that they're ready and really want it for themselves. Make sure they're not coming to like save their marriage, or that can happen, but they have to be the first in all of it. And yeah, if they have that, man, the confidence in Iboga and it's going to give them what they need is very high. As long as you get enough medicine into them, and dosing this medicine can be tricky because there's sometimes people can have a bunch of medicine. You can tell they're super high, but they're like, oh, nothing's going on. And if you keep dosing them, they'll just go for more time. And so, yeah, getting enough medicine into them is one of the most important parts of it. Sharing the tradition with them, applying it to their life when applicable, and keeping it in front of them, like what you need to do from here. And yeah, so we keep it pretty straightforward. Like you said, definitely get a lot of people ask, do you guys do Rike there or 5-MeO or stuff like that? And yeah, so we keep it very direct in that way. And part of that is to get back to the simplicity of things, because we start introducing a lot of other things, other people putting their we do offer massage, but like other people healing other people, it's not the time for it. We're here to heal ourselves through the medicine. That's what's going to heal. And so like kind of getting distracted off of this person is going to do some healing work on me now. No, you're the only one that can do it in the end. And yeah, I like all the other things as well. But yeah, just keeping it very simple and direct, because that's what most people need. They think of life as very complicated. And so just getting it down to the foundational stuff and then building it from there.
Yeah, and even the ceremony space is very energetically clean. I noticed it during my journey, but being here as a helper now and observing the ceremony from that perspective, like it feels like a very protected and energetically clear space. I think we were talking about this a little bit the other day, where with ayahuasca ceremony, sometimes it can get like spiritually messy, like a lot of spirits and stuff come in. It just feels very clean. Do you know what I mean? In the
Yeah.
ceremony space?
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, that's the nature of Iboga. Like we keep talking about, it's such an individual thing. And so the space that you're in, Iboga gives you a little cushion around you. So everybody else isn't coming inside unless they're like visitors from the journey. But as far as the guests that are here and the people going through the experience. But yeah, and that comes down to wanting to help people and keep them protected and wanting the best for them, because that as we take the medicine, those feelings and them feeling that, like all that gets amplified to a degree. And so if the provider isn't fully right, then that energy can definitely come through because they're the ones creating the space. And making people feel comfortable, letting them know that we're there for them. That's the biggest part of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so beautiful to see people go through this process just like I did, and to watch them discover the medicine and just feel how safe it is here and special it is here. And I think the land is a big part of it. It really holds us through the experience, and the fire and the smoke and what's the smoke that you use in ceremony?
Okume torch.
Akume torch, yeah.
Yep.
So the fire and the akume torch are for protection.
Yeah. Similar to ayahuasca or Palo Santo or sage. Yeah, we actually, that one we have now, that was the first one we have made before.
Yeah.
So
I saw your
pretty proud
Instagram
of that.
about that.
Oh, okay,
it might be the
that's
first
right.
in North America or something. Might be.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the fire ceremony. It's so fun to keep learning about it. So let's start winding things down. I want to ask you about the future of this medicine. It's obviously becoming much more popular and out there. And I feel like the medicine is in charge of that in a way. I feel like these master plant teachers know when to reach more people. I don't know if that resonates with you, but yeah, what are your thoughts around the future of Iboga and expanding access and sharing this medicine with more people in a good way amidst some of the sustainability issues that are talked about?
Yeah, they're definitely a concern, but from what I'm seeing, a lot more people are growing Iboga now in Gabon and other places. And Iboga, even from 3-4 years old, you're not going to get a lot of bark off of it, but it has the alkaloids. It'll get you there. And I know of quite a few people growing on them. So I think that's part of Iboga's plan. Went from the pygmies to the other groups and tribes within the area of Gabon. And then then Maginda brought it to Westerners, and now Westerners are going to the medicine and the healing is spreading. And yeah, Iboga definitely has like its timeline for releasing itself.
Do you feel like if the medicine like doesn't want to grow somewhere, it just won't, and if it wants to, it will? Matt and I were talking about this the other day, or Hasib and I were talking about this the other day about if it wants to grow outside of Africa, it will. If it doesn't, it won't. It's up to the medicine. Do you feel that?
Yeah. No, Iboga. Yeah, it'll. The energy of the person planting the Iboga is a big part of it. I'm pretty convinced. If it's cultivated Iboga, if it's wild Iboga, that's even better.
Elephants.
But we don't want to go pulling all those things out of the ground. And thankfully, from one Iboga fruit, you can many times get 20, 30 plants out of one. And it just wants to be in the right environment. Obviously, the conditions are an important part of it, but it can be pretty picky, but it's also pretty strong as well. It's tough I've seen one before where the top got cut off of it, like the whole plant, just a little stem sticking up, and it started growing off again. And it'll be interesting to see as Iboga gets grown, because I know it's outside of Gabon, Congo, and Cameroon now. It'd be interesting to see just the energy. The medicine, obviously, the land gives energy. And so it'll be interesting to see South American Iboga. But I think in all of that, like definitely we need to pay respect to the Bwiti and the people that brought this to us. And so if anybody's out there growing it, they need to donate or support some Bwiti people or help pay for the kids' schooling or something like that. So if people are out there growing Iboga, you need to give back to them, because they gave us one of the greatest gifts that can ever be given. They could have just kept it to themselves, but they didn't.
Yeah. Basi.
Yeah. Pasi.
Yeah. So let's end on the Monugongo. First of
Yeah.
all, can you explain to people what this instrument is and the kind of role of it in the Bwiti?
Yeah, so there's an instrument called a Monugongo, which is like a mouth bow, and it looks like a bow and arrow. And they say it represents like the sound of water, and there's different rhythms and ways of communicating through the Monugongo. But that's when you need to go through ceremony, like through an initiation, you need a lot of that. And yeah, people talk about it's probably the first non-percussion instrument to ever be invented. So at some point, a pygmy hunter sat down, had a stick, and started hitting this stick on the string of his bow, made sound, and then it grew from there. But yeah, ancient instrument. And yeah, we've actually been making our own mungungos here as well, which is good because yeah, it starts getting tough to get things shipped and stuff. And so finding out ways where we can do it ourselves. And yes, yeah, been practicing.
Yeah, and you and James. So James is he's a facilitator here. Is that what
Yeah.
you would call him? Yeah, facilitator. You both have gotten really good over the last 6
cool,
months.
Thanks.
Not that I'm an expert, but it sounds very much more melodic and like songs and not so much just practicing anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, would you like to play a little bit for us and
Sure.
share with the
Sure, I
listeners?
can play a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we'll stick that recording in here.
Mhm.
And is there anything else that you want to share with listeners about Iboga or just share about this medicine that feels important?
Let's see. Yeah, everybody needs to be called to it. Iboga isn't for everybody. And that's probably one good thing about that kind of psychedelic pharma industry is things are going to be made where something in Iboga can be distributed to somebody that would never come to Costa Rica or eat root bark or total alkaloid extract. And yeah, just you got to really make sure you're called. One thing I would say, a lot of people think they have to get like in a really good state before they come. So I'm not ready for that. I can work on myself. And no, just as long as you have the want in there, like all a lot of the learning will happen here while you're here. And so there's no like perfect spot to have this medicine.
Yeah. And thank you for encouraging me to come a lot earlier than I wanted to, because I don't know if you remember, but I was thinking of coming 4 months later or something. And you were like, just come now. Life will be so much better after. 4 months is a long time to live like in the same way. And I'm so happy I came when I did. So yeah, just want to encourage people out there. If you are feeling called but scared, tune into yourself and listen to yourself. But how would you say people know they're really being called to a medicine?
It'll keep coming up for them. They'll keep thinking about it. They'll keep looking into it more. They'll know. And then they just have to be careful that if they know, so what they want, the mind can then come in and, it's dangerous or whatever. But
that's something people should know as well for like psychospiritual experiences like we do here as well. And we do require a medical questionnaire,
an electrocardiogram at some point. If you're in good shape, you can definitely have Iboga. Where it gets trickier is when people are doing ibogaine detoxes for drug addiction. And so that's where you got to be much more careful because there's just so much more going on. And so, as you can see it on you and the people that come through, it's very healthy medicine. Like you're going to see people, you're physically stronger, immune wise, mentally, your body's clean. Yeah.
I didn't get sick all winter this year.
Oh, good.
It was the first winter that I didn't get sick. And that was right after Iboga. So who knows?
For sure. Like it definitely does something to the immune system.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for your messages. So how can people get in touch with you, learn more about the Wellness Center and reach out to you?
Through ibogawellness.com. And we have a contact form where we have quite a bit of content on the site for you to read through. And so, feel free to contact me through there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Levi, for everything you're doing and for taking time to drop in with the audience today again.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bussy.
This episode is produced in collaboration with Film with Integrity. They are a values-forward production studio, and their tagline is quality content crafted with care. And from my experience working with their team, that is certainly true. You can just tell that everything they put out into the world has that human touch from the heart. They truly have that something special that you won't find in most production houses, which is exactly why their work stands out from the crowd. I'm sitting in their video podcast studio as we record this, and that's one of the services they offer. This includes end-to-end production from concept to content. Film with Integrity also does event video, documentary series, commercial and marketing videos, all filmed with integrity, of course. Their home base is here in Toronto, and they work with many American and international clients on productions around the world. If you are working on a project that deserves that quality of production and content without sacrificing heart and soul, visit filmwithintegrity.com to check out their beautiful work and to get in touch with their beautiful team. That's filmwithintegrity.com, and I've linked that for you in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting the show. To stay in touch, sign up for my mailing list, which can be found in the show notes or on modernpsychedelics.net. If this episode sparked something within, please let me know by leaving a review of the Modern Psychedelics podcast on Apple and Spotify. This really helps to share these messages with those who need them, which is the whole reason why I do what I do. And if you haven't already, come join the ongoing conversation over on Instagram with other beautiful souls. We have an incredible and conscious community over at the handle Modern Psychedelics. And don't forget that the work begins after you come back down to earth. And I'm standing shoulder to shoulder, doing it with you.